Blake Lively's shell company doesn't just admit to hoarding stolen phone data, it brazenly lashes out at the victim demanding answers. A ruthless game of legal power is now exposed in broad daylight. Blake Lively's courtroom strategy has taken a turn so unsettling that even seasoned legal watchers are left questioning the true scope of what's unfolding behind closed doors. In a move that has sent ripples through both entertainment circles and legal communities, Lively's shell company, Vanzan Inc, openly acknowledged in a court filing that it has possession of phone data belonging to Jen Abel, data it should never have held in the first place. Yet what truly deepened the controversy wasn't just the shocking admission itself, but the scornful tone used to dismiss Abel's rightful attempt to obtain that data through discovery. It paints a portrait of legal brinkmanship taken to extremes, raising profound concerns about how far powerful figures and their corporate structures might go to silence critics and bury uncomfortable truths. The legal documents, though procedural in nature, reveal a troubling pattern. Rather than a straightforward handover of the requested material, the filing seems laced with derision toward Abel's request, as if the act of seeking justice were somehow an imposition. Observers familiar with the case suggest that this response hints at a broader strategy: discredit the victim, minimize the legitimacy of their claims, and in the process, subtly rewrite the narrative before it ever reaches trial. It is a tactic that, while not entirely new in high-stakes litigation, carries a distinct edge when the spotlight falls on a public figure whose reputation rests partly on charm and relatability. As this dispute over allegedly stolen evidence takes center stage, another figure emerges from the shadows: Stephanie Jones. Jones, whose name has surfaced in parallel filings, now faces questions over her own involvement in leaking confidential information tied to clients such as Wayfarer and Justin Baldoni. Her counterclaims point to an orchestrated smear campaign that, she insists, was designed to erode her credibility before any allegations could be properly tested in court. If true, this revelation would suggest a sophisticated effort to shift blame, deflect scrutiny, and leave those targeted struggling to defend themselves in the glare of public judgment. Sources close to the proceedings describe a tense atmosphere behind the scenes. While courtrooms often play host to strategic maneuvering, the aggressive stance taken here feels unusually personal. Legal experts note that the overt admission of possessing data, coupled with an unwillingness to release it, places Lively and her team on uncertain ground. It is as though the case's legal foundation rests on withholding evidence until it either becomes irrelevant or is buried under procedural technicalities. Such a plan, if it exists, risks unraveling under judicial scrutiny, particularly if the court determines that intentional concealment has taken place. Meanwhile, those following the story are struck by the contrast between Lively's carefully managed public persona and the combative tactics attributed to her legal representatives. It's a stark reminder that beneath polished red carpet appearances, there often lie disputes every bit as raw and confrontational as those faced by people far removed from celebrity status. This gap between image and reality invites uncomfortable questions about power, privilege, and the means by which public figures protect both. Adding complexity is the implication of a wider network potentially implicated by Jones's claims. If her allegations of a smear campaign prove grounded in fact, then the matter extends beyond a single dispute between Abel, Lively, and Vanzan Inc. It would suggest a coordinated attempt to influence perception, using confidential information not simply as legal leverage, but as a tool to discredit and silence perceived threats. This possibility alone heightens the stakes, transforming what might have remained a niche business dispute into a broader commentary on influence and ethics. In private circles, speculation abounds. Some argue that Vanzan Inc.'s decision to effectively admit possession of the data reflects confidence that legal technicalities, such as the question of admissibility or chain of custody, will ultimately shield them from liability. Others suspect it signals that the data itself could hold revelations damaging enough to justify extraordinary measures to keep it from public view. For those directly affected, however, these theories offer little comfort. At stake are reputations, livelihoods, and in Abel's case, the principle that victims should not be further victimized by the very process intended to deliver justice. Observers also note the timing of the revelations. With court dates looming, the pressure to resolve the matter outside of public proceedings grows. Historically, high-profile defendants often seek private settlements precisely to avoid the reputational risk that discovery might bring. Whether that path remains open here is uncertain, particularly if plaintiffs insist on full transparency as a condition for any agreement. What remains undeniable is that each new filing seems to expose another layer of complexity and potential misconduct. For those looking on, the most disquieting element is perhaps the normalization of tactics once viewed as beyond the pale. Discrediting victims, withholding evidence, and framing counter-narratives aren't new in litigation, but their brazenness here feels distinctive. It risks setting a precedent in which the power to shape public opinion matters as much, or more, than the facts themselves. Critics worry that if such strategies prove effective, they could encourage similar conduct elsewhere, leaving those without celebrity resources at a profound disadvantage. At the heart of the matter, though, are the human stories. Jen Abel, fighting not only for her data, but also for validation that her experience matters. Stephanie Jones, defending herself against allegations while pointing to a campaign that may have tarnished her before she ever set foot in court. And Blake Lively, whose involvement through Vanzan Inc. threatens to overshadow her carefully cultivated public image. Together, their intersecting narratives remind us that legal conflicts rarely exist in a vacuum. They carry real consequences for reputations, careers, and the broader discourse on accountability. As proceedings advance, it is likely more will emerge, both in court filings and through unofficial channels. What remains to be seen is whether those revelations will illuminate or obscure the truth. In an era where perception often battles fact, the stakes extend beyond this single courtroom. They speak to a larger question: can the legal system, even when confronted by immense celebrity influence, still deliver justice unclouded by spin? Ultimately, the coming weeks may prove decisive. Will the data be released? Will claims of a smear campaign find traction? And above all, will the legal process hold firm against attempts to weaponize narrative over evidence? For now, what is clear is that the story of Blake Lively, Vanzan Inc., Jen Abel, and Stephanie Jones is far from its final act. The unfolding drama will test not only the resilience of those directly involved, but also the faith of the public in a system tasked with balancing truth against the pull of power. In that struggle, the lines between strategy and integrity risk blurring, leaving the rest of us to wonder where, and with whom, accountability will ultimately rest. Thanks for watching.